Section 1-2, Analyzing Graphs, Day 1. The first thing about analyzing graphs you've already done, and so I'm not going to go over it. You should be very fluent at this point in time. If you forget though, it's example 2 in the book in section 1-2, and it's reviewing domain and range. So although I'm not going to do examples on it today, you are expected to know it. Alright, first thing today we're going to talk about for analyzing graphs is also something you should know. You'll find a lot of this stuff in the first chapter is review right now, and that's going to be finding Y-intercepts. Now, don't turn the video off and go, oh, I already know how to do this. I'm sure you do know how to do it, but you need to make sure that you're showing enough work and writing your answer appropriately. So, first of all, let's just remind ourselves. So remember, a Y-intercept intercepts the graph. At the point zero comma y. So what's really important about this is that the x value is 0. So that means to find or determine a y-intercept algebraically, find f of 0. So substitute 0 in for x and you're good. So let's do a quick example. Use the graph to estimate the y-intercept. Then find the values algebraically. Alright, so we're going to graph this by hand. F of x equals x cubed plus x squared minus 6x plus 4. Don't worry, I haven't reviewed how to graph polynomials yet, so you'd be given the graph. So we're going to go up to 12, and I'm going to use a scale of 2. And I'm going to go down to -4, also with a scale of 2. And to +4 and -4, but I'm going to do a scale of 1. Make sure you're drawing accurate graphs. I know sometimes you want to rush through the notes, but the notes is important. If you're not taking good notes, then you're likely going to mess up on a test or a quiz. Okay, so the graph kind of looks something like this. Goes kind of near -4 up to like -212-ish. Something like that. I'm not making it accurate. Okay, so if we wanted to estimate, I actually did a poor job, so if we were going to estimate here based on my sketch, we'd probably estimate 0, 4.5. But algebraically, you need to show this. So you need to show f of 0 equals, so we're replacing x with 0, and then I don't want you to skip any steps. I want you to substitute everything in. That's always the first step. So 0 cubed plus 0 squared minus 6 times 0 plus 4. And the reason for this is it's just assessing, can you communicate this accurately? So now you should be able to do all of this in your head. Don't drop the equal sign, right? If the left side is staying the same, you can just put your equal sign. And so all of this will become 0, and we're left with 4. And again, you have to write your final answer as a point. So I drew this super poorly. It should have been going through right here, but that's our final answer. All right, last thing is zeros. So finding zeros. So the X intercepts of a graph of a function are also called zeros. And so we need to write them as a point, and then be x comma 0. And so the word 0 just comes from when we substitute, or it's the value that gives us 0 for the entire function. Okay. So the solutions, this is where there's a lot of vocab. The solutions of the corresponding equation are called roots. So the roots are the x value of the x-intercept. And that's where a lot of students lose points, because I'll ask for intercepts or I'll ask for zeros, and you write a root, so be careful. So let's do one example. So algebraically, solve for the x-intercept. And let's practice some factoring. So here's the function. 3x cubed minus 10x squared plus 8x. So remember, the first step is always factor out the greatest common factor. So we need to look at each term and determine what is the greatest common factor. Also, if we're solving for an x-intercept, the y value is 0. So we need to make this 0. Do not get rid of the left side. And then I'm going to factor out the greatest common factor, which in this case is x. And I am left with 3x squared minus 10x plus 8. And I can't factor anything else out, so now I'm going to factor the whole quadratic, and I'm going to use grouping. So remember, scrap work has to go on the side. And we're basically saying what multiplies to a times c and equals b. So 3 times 8 is 24, and b is negative 10. So what adds to negative 10 and adds to 24? It's going to be negative 6 and negative 4. And then if you remember factor by grouping, you're going to replace the negative 10 with this. And this is important. Make sure you bring everything down. So the 0, the equal sign, the x. And then we have negative 6x minus 4x plus 8. And then this is where we factor by grouping. So I'm going to factor the greatest common factor of this first group, which is 3x, and I'm left with x minus 2. Greatest common factor here is minus 4, so I'm left with x minus 2 again. Don't forget your second parentheses, because this whole thing is in parentheses. So then I am left with 0 equals x times 3x minus 4 and x minus 2. And we are almost done because we need to still solve for the x-intercept. So this is where we use the zero product property. A very common mistake is to divide by x. We don't want to do that. We want to set each product equal to 0. So we have x equals 0, x equals positive 4/3, and x equals 2. But these are roots, so I need to rewrite this as 0, 0, 4/3, 0, and 2, 0. And then for those of you caring, how much work do I have to show? I'm expecting you to show this line for sure. This line, if you don't factor by grouping, that's okay. Each of these, and then your final answers. And that's it.